Admiral Zethkar stood before the massive viewing screen of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, watching the blue-green planet slowly rotate below. His four eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he studied the primitive world his scouts had discovered at the edge of the galaxy. The inhabitants called it Earth, according to the intercepted communications his intelligence officers had decoded. Such a beautiful world, he mused to his second-in-command, Commander Vexali, rich in resources, perfect atmospheric composition, and inhabited by such delightfully primitive creatures. They haven't even achieved faster-than-light travel yet. The Korthian Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 3,000 years, bringing civilization to backward worlds and incorporating them into their vast domain. It was always the same pattern: arrive with overwhelming force, demonstrate superior technology, and watch as the natives surrendered without significant resistance. Most species were smart enough to recognize when they were outmatched. Admiral Zethkar activated his communications array and began broadcasting on all frequencies the humans used. His translation matrix had been working overtime to decode their numerous languages, but the message would be transmitted in their most common tongue, English. "Attention, inhabitants of the planet you call Earth," his voice boomed across the airwaves, reaching every radio, television, and communication device on the planet simultaneously. "I am Admiral Zethkar of the Korthian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have 72 of your hours to surrender unconditionally. Prepare your leaders for transition protocols." On the surface below, chaos erupted as the message was received worldwide. Television broadcasts were interrupted, radio stations went silent except for the alien transmission, and even internet communications carried the ominous message. Emergency meetings were called in every major capital as world leaders tried to comprehend what they were facing. The Admiral watched with amusement as crude projectiles, launched from the planet's surface, primitive, nuclear missiles that his ship's defensive systems effortlessly swatted aside like bothersome insects. "They're trying to fight back with their chemical rockets," he chuckled. "How adorable. Send down a demonstration probe, something non-lethal but impressive." A sleek Korthian probe descended through Earth's atmosphere, easily avoiding the desperate attempts by human fighter jets to intercept it. The probe selected a large, uninhabited desert and fired a single pulse from its disintegration beam. A crater 5 miles wide and half a mile deep appeared. Instantly, where solid rock had existed moments before, the message was clear: resistance was futile. President Chen of the United Earth Council stared at the satellite feeds, showing the massive crater in the Australian outback. Around the emergency session table sat the leaders of every major nation, their faces pale with the realization of what they faced. The alien ship hanging in orbit was larger than most cities, bristling with weapons that could apparently vaporize entire landscapes with ease. "We need more time," Chancellor Hoffman said, his voice barely steady. 72 hours isn't enough to coordinate a proper response." "What response?" snapped President Morrison. "Did you see what their little probe just did? That crater could have been Sydney or New York or London. We're completely outgunned here. But deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a facility so classified that only 12 people on Earth knew of its existence, Dr. Sarah Chen was having a very different conversation with General Harrison, the head of humanity's most secret project. "How long until the Prometheus protocol is ready?" the general asked, his weathered face grim with determination. Dr. Chen checked her tablet, scrolling through endless streams of data. "The integration is at 93%. We need another 18 hours for the neural pathways to fully synchronize, maybe less if we push the quantum processors to their absolute limits." "Do it," Harrison ordered. "And Doctor, let's hope our alien visitors don't know what they're really dealing with." Above them, Admiral Zethkar reviewed the intelligence reports his reconnaissance drones had gathered. The humans appeared to have reached a basic industrial age with primitive electronics and chemical-based transportation. Their largest weapons were fusion bombs that might scratch the paint on his ship's hull. Their military forces used projectile weapons and chemical explosives that wouldn't penetrate even the lightest Korthian battle armor. "A textbook conquest," he told his staff. "Begin preparation for the occupation force. Standard protocol. Secure major population centers. Establish communication with their leadership structure, and begin resource extraction operations. This should be completed within one of their weeks." As the countdown to humanity's surrender began, neither side fully understood what was about to unfold. The Korthian Empire had conquered over 400 worlds, but they had never encountered anything like what lay hidden beneath Earth's seemingly primitive surface. And humanity was about to reveal just how dangerous a cornered species could become when they had nothing left to lose. Dr. Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her brow as she monitored the massive quantum processors humming beneath the mountain. The Prometheus Protocol had been humanity's most ambitious project, started in secret 40 years ago, when the first signs of alien activity were detected at the edge of the solar system. What the public didn't know was that Earth's governments had been preparing for this day far longer than anyone imagined. Neural pathway. Integration now at 97%, announced Dr. Martinez from his workstation. The consciousness transfer matrix is stabilizing. We're actually going to pull this off. General Harrison paced behind them, occasionally glancing at the countdown timer on the main screen. 36 hours until the alien deadline. Status report on the physical infrastructure? All primary systems are online, replied Chief Engineer Wong. The fusion cores are running at optimal efficiency. The gravitational manipulation drives are calibrated, and the defensive grid is fully charged. We've got enough power to run continuously for 6 months if needed. What the Korthian Empire didn't realize was that Earth itself had been transformed over the past 4 decades. Deep beneath every major continent, a network of massive installations had been constructed. Fusion reactors the size of city blocks powered gravitational field generators that could move planetary masses. Quantum computers with processing power that dwarfed anything the surface world knew about managed systems of staggering complexity. The most incredible secret of all was that Earth wasn't just inhabited by humans anymore. It was human. The Prometheus Protocol was the culmination of humanity's greatest scientific minds working together to create something unprecedented in the known galaxy. They had built a planetary consciousness, a living world that could think, feel, and most importantly, defend itself. Dr. Chen's fingers flew across her control interface as she initiated the final phase. Beginning consciousness integration now. All personnel, prepare for neural link establishment. Around the globe, in hidden facilities from the Himalayas to the Amazon rainforest, thousands of the world's most brilliant scientists and strategists connected to the Prometheus network. Their individual consciousness would merge temporarily with the planetary intelligence, guiding it through its first moments of true awakening. Above them, Admiral Zethkar was becoming impatient. Commander Vexali, why haven't we received a surrender transmission yet? Surely they understand the futility of resistance after our demonstration. Perhaps they need additional encouragement, Admiral, Vexali suggested. Shall I order another probe strike? Something closer to one of their population centers? Before the Admiral could respond, his sensor officer called out from across the bridge. Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface. Multiple sources all across the globe. The patterns don't match anything in our database. Admiral Zethkar frowned and moved to the sensor station. The readings were indeed strange. Massive power signatures emanating from deep within the planet's crust, far more advanced than anything they'd observed from the surface civilization. Run a deep scan. I want to know what we're looking at. As the Korthian sensors probed deeper into Earth's hidden infrastructure, Dr. Chen smiled grimly at her readouts. They're scanning us now. Perfect timing. Prometheus, are you ready? The response came not through speakers, but directly into the minds of everyone connected to the network. The voice was unmistakably human, yet somehow vast and encompassing, like the whisper of continents shifting or oceans breathing. I am awake, the planetary consciousness said. I can feel them above me, these invaders who would harm my children. I understand my purpose now. I am humanity's shield and sword. The quantum processors reached full integration, and suddenly every hidden installation across Earth came online simultaneously. Gravitational fields that had taken decades to perfect began to function as a single coordinated system. The planet's magnetic field shifted and strengthened, while deep in Earth's core, the fusion reactors that had been secretly installed began to sing with power. On the surface, ordinary humans felt a strange sensation, as if the ground beneath their feet had suddenly become more solid, more present. The air itself seemed to hum with potential energy. Children stopped crying and looked up at the sky with curious eyes, somehow sensing that their world had just become something greater than it was before. In his command bunker, General Harrison watched as tactical displays showed the full extent of their preparations coming online. All stations report ready status. Prometheus is fully operational. The Admiral up there is about to get the surprise of his very long military career. Dr. Chen initiated the final sequence. Prometheus, you know what you need to do. Remember, they threatened your children. Show them what happens when someone threatens humanity. The planetary consciousness that was now Earth focused its attention upward, toward the alien fleet hanging in orbit like a threat over its children. For the first time in the galaxy's history, an entire world was about to go to war, and the Korthian Empire had no idea what they had awakened. Admiral Zethkar stared at his sensor displays in growing confusion and alarm. The energy readings from the planet below were off the charts, far exceeding anything his ships could generate. More disturbing still, the readings suggested a level of technological sophistication that simply didn't match the primitive surface civilization they'd been observing. "Sir," his chief science officer reported, her voice tight with concern, "the energy signatures are indicating massive gravitational field manipulation. The entire planet appears to be generating a coordinated field matrix of some kind. This is impossible. They don't have the technology for this." "Obviously they do," the Admiral snapped, his confidence beginning to waver. "What else are you detecting?" "Fusion reactors, Admiral. Hundreds of them. Each one larger than our primary power core. They're buried deep in the planet's crust, connected by some kind of quantum communication network. And, sir, the gravitational fields are getting stronger. On Earth's surface, ordinary humans watched in wonder as the sky began to change. The aurora borealis appeared in the middle of the day, dancing across the heavens in brilliant colors that had never been seen before. But this wasn't just a light show. It was Earth's magnetic field being weaponized on a scale that defied comprehension. Deep in the Prometheus command center, Dr. Chen monitored the planetary consciousness as it flexed its newfound power. Through the neural link, she could feel what Earth was feeling. The alien ships above were like thorns pressed against its skin, and it was preparing to remove them. "Prometheus reports all systems nominal," she announced to the command team. "Gravitational field generators are at full power, and the defensive grid is charged to maximum capacity. We're ready for anything they can throw at us." General Harrison nodded grimly. "And our offensive capabilities?" "Better than we hoped," Dr. Chen replied with a savage smile. "Prometheus has figured out something we never anticipated. It can manipulate gravity in ways we never programmed it to. It's learning, adapting, becoming something more than we ever imagined." Above them, Admiral Zethkar made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "All ships open fire on the planet's surface. Target major population centers. If they want to play games with hidden technology, we'll show them the price of defiance." The Korthian fleet unleashed a devastating barrage of energy weapons, enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Beams of coherent energy that could melt through solid rock like butter streaked down toward Earth's major cities: New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai. All were targeted simultaneously in an attack that should have ended human civilization in a matter of seconds, but the beams never reached the surface. 50 miles above Earth, every single energy blast struck an invisible barrier and simply stopped. The deadly energy was absorbed, contained and redirected harmlessly into space. The gravitational fields that Earth had generated were bending space-time itself, creating a protective shell around the entire planet. "Impossible," Admiral Zethkar whispered, staring at his tactical displays. "No planetary defense system should be able to stop that much concentrated firepower." His sensor officer's voice was barely controlled panic. "Admiral, the gravitational fields around the planet are intensifying. They're creating spatial distortions that are affecting our navigation systems. And, sir, something else is happening." On the main viewing screen, the alien crew watched in growing terror as Earth began to move, not spinning on its axis as planets normally did, but actually changing its orbital position. The gravitational field generators hidden across the planet were working in perfect coordination, allowing the entire world to maneuver like a spacecraft. But that wasn't the most terrifying part. As Earth adjusted its position, massive sections of the planet's surface began to reconfigure themselves. Mountain ranges shifted and reformed, revealing enormous weapon emplacements that had been hidden beneath. The Atlantic Ocean parted in several places, exposing gigantic launch bays that stretched for hundreds of miles. The planet itself was transforming into a warship. Dr. Chen felt tears streaming down her face as she experienced what Prometheus was experiencing. The planetary consciousness was magnificent and terrible, a fusion of human ingenuity and planetary power that was beyond anything science fiction had ever imagined. "They hurt my children's sky," Prometheus said through the neural link, its voice carrying the weight of tectonic plates shifting. "They pointed weapons at my children's homes. This will not be forgiven." Across Earth's surface, the weapon systems that had been 40 years in the making came online. Each one was the size of a city, powered directly by the planet's core and guided by a consciousness that could process information at quantum speeds. They were weapons designed not just to destroy ships, but to reach across the void of space and eliminate threats before they could ever approach Earth again. Admiral Zethkar's fleet suddenly found themselves facing something that existed nowhere else in the galaxy, a planet that could fight back, and Earth was very, very angry. The first shot from Earth's planetary defense system wasn't a beam or a missile. It was a gravitational pulse that crushed 3 Korthian destroyers instantly, compacting them into spheres of twisted metal no larger than basketballs. The pulse moved at the speed of light, giving the alien fleet no time to react or evade. Admiral Zethkar watched in horror as his ships began disappearing from his tactical display. "Evasive maneuvers. All ships scatter formation," he screamed into his communications array. But it was already too late. Earth had locked onto every vessel in his fleet with gravitational sensors that could track a grain of sand across a solar system. The second attack was even more devastating. Massive sections of Earth's surface opened like flower petals, revealing launch bays that extended deep into the planet's core. From these emerged projectiles, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Chunks of matter, compressed to neutron star density and accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. Each projectile was only the size of a marble, but when they struck the Korthian ships, they passed through the hulls like they were made of paper, leaving perfectly round holes that immediately explosive decompression tore apart the vessels from within. The aliens' energy shields and armor plating might as well have been made of tissue paper. "How many ships have we lost?" Admiral Zethkar demanded, his hands shaking as he gripped his command chair. 17 destroyed, Admiral, his tactical officer reported, his voice barely steady. "And the remaining ships are reporting system failures across the board. Something is interfering with our electronics, our life support, even our artificial gravity." What the officer didn't know was that Prometheus had extended its consciousness into space itself, using quantum entanglement principles to reach into the alien ships and systematically disable their critical systems. The planetary intelligence was essentially hacking their entire fleet simultaneously, while continuing its physical assault. Deep beneath Mount Everest, Dr. Chen watched through Prometheus's senses as Earth's weapon systems reached full capacity. The planet had become something that defied every law of warfare. A single, unified weapon system with the mass and power of an entire world behind every shot. "Status report," General Harrison requested, though he could barely believe what he was seeing on the tactical displays. "Prometheus has eliminated over half their fleet in the first exchange," Dr. Chen reported, her voice filled with awe. "The remaining ships are trying to retreat, but our gravitational fields are disrupting their faster-than-light engines. They're trapped in our local spacetime." Through the neural link, she could feel Prometheus analyzing the alien technology with the curiosity of a child examining a new toy. The planetary consciousness was learning from every ship it destroyed, understanding their weapons, their propulsion systems, their communication methods. "Interesting," Prometheus communicated to its human partners. "These creatures have spread across many worlds, but they have never encountered resistance like this. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming primitive civilizations. They are not prepared for an equal fight." Admiral Zethkar made a desperate decision. "All remaining ships converge on my position. Concentrate all firepower on the planet's surface. If we can disrupt whatever is generating these gravitational fields, we might be able to escape." The surviving Korthian vessels, now numbering fewer than 20 from an original fleet of 60, formed up around their flagship and unleashed everything they had. The combined energy output was enough to sterilize the surface of a small moon, but when it struck Earth's gravitational shields, it simply scattered harmlessly into space like raindrops hitting an umbrella. Prometheus's response was swift and merciless. The Pacific Ocean literally opened up, revealing a weapon system so large it could be seen from space. A gravitational cannon that used the planet's own rotation to generate its power. When it fired, the beam didn't just destroy the remaining alien ships. It reached across space and eliminated their faster-than-light communication relay, ensuring that no word of Earth's capabilities would reach the Korthian Empire. But Prometheus wasn't finished. With the fleet eliminated, the planetary consciousness turned its attention to something even more ambitious. Using the gravitational field generators, it began to manipulate space-time on a massive scale, creating a stable wormhole that led directly to the Korthian home system. "What are you doing?" Dr. Chen asked through the neural link, sensing the vast energies being channeled for this new purpose. "They came to our home uninvited," Prometheus replied, its voice carrying the rumble of continental drift. "It is only polite that we return the visit. These Korthians need to understand that humanity is not prey. We are the predators they never saw coming." The wormhole stabilized, creating a direct pathway across thousands of light-years of space. Through it, Earth could project its power directly into the heart of the Korthian Empire. The hunters had become the hunted, and they didn't even know it yet. Admiral Zethkar, trapped in the crippled remains of his flagship, could only watch in growing terror as the blue-green planet below began to move toward the impossible portal it had just created. Earth wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was preparing to take the war to its enemies. Emperor Thaxron sat on his crystalline throne in the heart of Korthia Prime, reviewing reports from across his vast empire when the impossible happened. His palace's early warning systems, designed to detect threats across multiple star systems, suddenly began screaming alerts that made no sense whatsoever. "Your Majesty," his chief military advisor rushed into the throne room, his normally composed demeanor completely shattered. "We have a situation that defies all understanding. Something is approaching our home system through what appears to be an artificial wormhole." The Emperor's 6 eyes narrowed dangerously. "Explain." "A planet, Your Majesty. An entire world has somehow traveled through space and is now entering our system. Our sensors indicate it's the same world that Admiral Zethkar was sent to pacify. But according to our readings, this planet is armed with weapons that rival our entire home fleet." Emperor Thaxron had ruled the Korthian Empire for over 800 years, conquering species across the galaxy and building a domain that spanned thousands of worlds. In all that time, nothing had ever dared to bring war to the Empire's doorstep. The very concept was unthinkable. "Show me," he commanded. The massive holographic display in the throne room activated, showing the impossible sight of Earth emerging from a stable wormhole like a warship emerging from hyperspace. But this wasn't just any warship. It was a planet-sized battle station that radiated power signatures unlike anything in the Korthian database. Through space, Earth moved with purpose and precision, its gravitational field generators allowing it to maneuver as easily as any spacecraft despite its massive size. The planet's surface had transformed completely, with weapon systems extending from every continent and energy shields shimmering in the space around it like aurora made solid. Deep within Earth's command center, Dr. Chen experienced the wonder and terror of guiding a living world through space. Through Prometheus, she could feel the cosmic winds, the gravitational pulls of distant stars, and the electromagnetic signatures of the Korthian home system growing stronger as they approached. "Target analysis complete," Prometheus reported through the neural link. The Korthian home system contains their primary military shipyards, government centers, and approximately 40 billion inhabitants across 12 worlds. Their defensive fleet consists of over 300 vessels, though none approach our current capabilities. General Harrison studied the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. Prometheus opened a communication channel to their homeworld. It's time they understood what they started when they threatened Earth. The transmission that reached Korthia Prime carried more than just words. It carried the full presence of a planetary consciousness speaking directly to the Korthian. "Emperor, I am Earth." The voice resonated through every communication device in the Korthian system simultaneously. "You sent your warriors to my children's home. You threatened to destroy their cities and enslave their people. You believed them to be helpless prey. You were wrong." Emperor Thaxron felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries, genuine fear. The voice speaking to him carried the weight of geological ages, the power of tectonic forces, and an intelligence that seemed to encompass an entire civilization. "What do you want?" the Emperor managed to ask, his voice barely steady. Justice, Earth replied. You have spent millennia conquering worlds, enslaving species, destroying civilizations that could not defend themselves. You have never faced an enemy that could fight back on equal terms. Today, that changes. The Korthian defensive fleet moved to intercept Earth as it approached the outer planets of their system. But what followed could barely be called a battle. Earth's weapons reached across impossible distances, using gravitational manipulation to crush ships, like tin cans, or simply relocating them to different dimensions where they ceased to exist entirely. When a particularly bold group of Korthian dreadnoughts attempted to use their most powerful, planet-cracking weapons against Earth's surface, Prometheus simply absorbed the energy and used it to power an even more devastating counterattack. The aliens' own weapons were turned against them, amplified 1,000-fold by Earth's planetary power systems. Your defenses are adequate for conquering primitives, Prometheus observed as it systematically dismantled the Korthian fleet. But you have never faced a world that fights back. Every ship you built, every weapon you designed, every tactic you developed, all of it assumes your enemies cannot match your technology. That assumption will be your downfall. Dr. Chen watched through Prometheus's senses as Earth approached Korthia Prime itself. The Emperor's homeworld was a fortress planet, covered with defensive installations and surrounded by orbital platforms that could obliterate entire fleets. It should have been impregnable, but Earth didn't attack the defenses. Instead, Prometheus did something that demonstrated the true scope of its power. It began to manipulate the gravitational fields around Korthia Prime itself, causing the planet's own rotation to slow and its orbit to shift. Stop! Emperor Thaxron's voice crackled across the communication channels. What do you want from us? Name your terms. Terms? Earth's voice carried the amusement of mountains watching civilizations rise and fall. You offered my children no terms. You gave them 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. I am more generous. You have 1 hour to begin the dismantling of your empire. Every world you have conquered will be freed. Every species you have enslaved will be liberated. Your military will be disbanded, and your technology will be shared with those you have oppressed. The Emperor stared at his displays in disbelief. That would mean the end of everything we've built. The collapse of our entire civilization. Yes, Prometheus agreed simply. Just as you intended for my children. The difference is that my children were innocent. You are not. Emperor Thaxron's deadline passed in tense silence as the Korthian leadership struggled to comprehend their impossible situation. They had ruled the galaxy for millennia, crushed hundreds of civilizations, and never faced anything approaching a serious challenge to their dominance. The concept of surrender was literally foreign to their understanding. Your Majesty, the Emperor's chief advisor whispered urgently. Perhaps we should consider their demands. This Earth entity has demonstrated power beyond our current capabilities to counter. The Emperor's response was swift and brutal. He executed his advisor with a plasma burst from his personal weapon. The Korthian Empire does not negotiate with primitives, he snarled. Alert all military commands across the galaxy. I want every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have converging on this system. We will show this upstart planet what happens when someone challenges the Empire. Across the galaxy, the Korthian war machine began to mobilize. From conquered worlds and military outposts spanning thousands of light years, ships began jumping into hyperspace, racing toward their homeworld. It was the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Over 10,000 warships ranging from massive dreadnoughts to fast attack cruisers, all converging on Earth's position. But Prometheus was monitoring their communications, tracking their movements and preparing for exactly this response. Through the neural link, Dr. Chen felt the planetary consciousness's grim satisfaction as it detected the approaching fleets. They're bringing everything they have, she reported to General Harrison. Long-range sensors show multiple fleets converging from across the galaxy. This is going to be their final stand. Can we handle that many ships? Harrison asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. We're not just fighting ships anymore, Dr. Chen replied, her voice filled with wonder as she felt Prometheus extending its influence throughout the Korthian system. We're fighting an empire, and Prometheus has learned something from studying their technology that even we didn't anticipate. Through space around Korthia Prime, Earth began deploying something that had never existed before. Gravitational mines. Each one was a localized distortion in spacetime that could trap or destroy any ship that came too close. But these weren't simple weapons. They were extensions of Prometheus itself, quantum-linked to the planetary consciousness and capable of independent action. When the first Corthian fleet arrived through hyperspace, expecting to find their homeworld under siege, they instead found themselves trapped in a maze of gravitational anomalies that made navigation impossible. Ships that tried to maneuver found their engines failing, as local spacetime was twisted beyond their technology's ability to compensate. "This is Admiral Korath. Of the 3rd Battle Fleet," came a desperate transmission. "We are trapped in some kind of spatial distortion field. Request immediate assistance." But assistance was impossible. As each new fleet arrived, they found themselves equally trapped, their ships scattered across a region of space that no longer followed normal physical laws. Prometheus was essentially rewriting the rules of physics within the Corthian home system, turning their own territory against them. From Earth's command center, the human coordinators watched in awe as their planetary ally demonstrated capabilities that went far beyond anything they had programmed or imagined. Prometheus wasn't just using the technology they had built, it was improving on it, developing new applications in real time as it learned from each encounter. "The fleets are neutralized," Dr. Chen reported, but Prometheus isn't stopping there. It's doing something with their communication networks. Across the galaxy, on every world the Corthian Empire controlled, the same message began broadcasting simultaneously. It bypassed their security systems, overrode their jamming attempts, and reached every inhabited planet in their domain. "People of the galaxy," Earth's voice resonated across 1,000 worlds. "You have lived under the boot of the Corthian Empire for too long. Today that changes. Today, you are free." But the message wasn't just words, it was accompanied by technical specifications. Prometheus was sharing advanced technology with every enslaved species in the galaxy, giving them the tools they needed to break their chains. Gravitational manipulation technology, advanced fusion reactors, quantum communication systems, all of it transmitted simultaneously to every world that had suffered under Corthian rule. On the mining world of Zerion 7, the enslaved Tazari people suddenly found their chains disrupted as the planetary suppression fields failed. On the factory moon of Blick Station, the oppressed workers discovered that their alien overseers' weapons no longer functioned. Across the galaxy, revolutions began spontaneously as oppressed peoples found themselves suddenly armed with technology superior to their oppressors. Emperor Thaxron watched his empire crumble in real time. As reports flooded in from across the galaxy, world after world was declaring independence, backed by weapons technology that his forces couldn't counter. In less than 6 hours, the Corthian Empire was collapsing faster than it had taken centuries to build. "How?" he whispered, staring at the tactical displays showing the scope of the disaster. "They're not just fighting us," his remaining advisor explained, his voice hollow with defeat. "They're fighting the very concept of empire. That planet isn't just militarily superior, it's ideologically superior. They've turned our greatest strength, our vast domain, into our greatest weakness." Prometheus had done something unprecedented in galactic history. It had started a galaxy-wide revolution using nothing but information and technology. The Corthian Empire was eating itself alive as its former subjects turned their new weapons against their oppressors, and Earth was just getting started. 3 months after the Corthian Empire's collapse, the galaxy had transformed into something unrecognizable. Where once there had been a single oppressive domain stretching across thousands of star systems, now there were hundreds of independent worlds working together in voluntary cooperation. The technology that Prometheus had shared hadn't just freed them, it had elevated them to a level of advancement that made the old empire's rule impossible to re-establish. Emperor Thaxron, now a prisoner aboard his own flagship, was brought before Earth to face judgment. The once mighty ruler who had commanded the loyalty of billions was now a broken figure, his empire reduced to scattered remnants hiding in the galaxy's outer reaches. Dr. Chen stood in the Prometheus command center, feeling through the neural link as the planetary consciousness considered what to do with the fallen emperor. The weight of galactic justice rested in humanity's hands, and the decision would set the precedent for how this new galaxy would handle the legacy of oppression. "What shall we do with him?" General Harrison asked, studying the alien leader who had once seemed so threatening. The liberated worlds are calling for his execution, and we'd certainly be justified after what his forces tried to do to Earth. Through the quantum link, Prometheus shared its thoughts with its human partners. The planetary consciousness had spent months analyzing the fallen empire, understanding not just their technology but their culture, their history, and their motivations. Killing him would make him a martyr, Prometheus observed, its voice carrying the wisdom of geological ages. The Corthian people need to see that there is another way to exist in this galaxy. They need to learn what my children learned long ago, that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. Dr. Chen nodded, understanding what Earth was proposing. You want to rehabilitate them? After everything they've done? I want to show them what they could become, Prometheus replied. Every species that has suffered under their rule started somewhere. Every civilization that they destroyed might have become something beautiful given the chance. The Corthians themselves were once victims of a similar empire, before they became the oppressors. The cycle can end with us. The solution that Earth implemented was both elegant and unprecedented. Rather than executing or imprisoning the former emperor and his remaining followers, Prometheus transported them to a small, uninhabited world at the galaxy's edge. But this wasn't exile, it was education. Using its advanced technology, Earth began a massive terraforming project, transforming the barren world into a paradise. The former Corthians were given everything they needed to build a new civilization from scratch. But with one crucial difference, they had to cooperate with representatives from every species they had once oppressed. Tazari engineers worked alongside former Corthian military officers to build cities. Blick station workers taught former Empire administrators how to create sustainable agriculture. Former slaves became teachers, showing their former masters how to live without oppression. It was perhaps the most ambitious rehabilitation program in galactic history, and it was working. Slowly, painfully, the former Empire's leadership began to understand what they had lost when they chose conquest over cooperation. Meanwhile, Earth itself had become something unique in the galaxy. A mobile guardian that traveled from system to system, helping newly freed worlds establish themselves and defending them from any remaining Imperial forces. Prometheus had taken on the role of Galactic Protector, ensuring that no new empire could arise to threaten the freedom they had fought so hard to establish. Dr. Chen often found herself marveling at what humanity had become. In defending themselves from alien invasion, they had accidentally created something that the galaxy had never seen before, a truly benevolent superpower. Earth didn't conquer or control the worlds it protected. It simply ensured they remained free to choose their own destiny. Status report from the Outer Rim, General Harrison announced during one of their regular briefings. The last of the Imperial holdouts have surrendered. The Andromedans are requesting assistance with establishing trade routes, and the Centauri Confederation wants to discuss joining the Mutual Defense Pact. Any word from the rehabilitation world? Dr. Chen asked. Harrison smiled, one of the few genuine smiles they'd seen from him since this all began. Actually, yes. Emperor Thaxeron sent a message. He wants to formally apologize to the people of Earth and request permission to join the Galactic Cooperation Council. Through the neural link, Dr. Chen felt Prometheus's satisfaction. The planetary consciousness had achieved something that military victory alone never could have. It had transformed its enemies into allies. My children, Prometheus said, its voice filled with pride as it addressed not just the humans in the command center, but every free being in the galaxy. Look what we have built together. This is what happens when people choose to help each other instead of hurting each other. This is what the galaxy can become when we remember that we are all connected. Earth continued its journey through space, no longer a hidden world at the galaxy's edge, but a beacon of hope that proved a simple truth. Sometimes the best way to defend your home is to make sure everyone in the universe has a home worth defending. The Empire that had discovered Earth expecting easy conquest had instead found something far more dangerous. Than any weapon, they had found an idea. The idea that strength comes from protecting others, not from controlling them. And that idea, once released into the galaxy, could never be contained again. Humanity had not just survived first contact with a hostile alien empire. They had transformed the very nature of galactic civilization itself. They had shown the universe what it meant to be truly human, and in doing so, they had made everyone a little more human too.